There were more than 2,200 games that participated in this last Next Fest. Although there were more games, it felt like there was less competition. I saw fewer games that had studio backing, and that might be a direct result of what people have been saying about publisher funding having mostly dried up. In addition, there were a lot more games that looked like they were from first-time developers, with a higher percentage of hobbyists and a much higher percentage of what appears to be solo-developed games, including my own. I love that the main page just cycled through 10-second clips of games. That's amazing for discovery, and even better that it had back and forward arrows, and would pause if you moved your mouse over something. So if you caught half a glimpse of something interesting, you wouldn't lose it forever. Before the format changed last fall, Next Fest was really getting oversaturated by big players, and it's obvious as someone browsing games that discovery is just far better in this new format. I had no idea whether it would be better for me as a developer, but since the fest itself was able to hold my attention way better as a buyer, I suspected it would also be better for developers despite the higher number of games. Compared with my first Next Fest a year and a half earlier, my game didn't feel out of place. Of course it's not perfect, but I'm proud of it and don't feel weird showing it. Contrast that with my first Next Fest where I had a game that was arguably in the top quartile of most amateur looking. Yes, I absolutely have leveled up my skills and have a much better and more visually attractive game to present than before, but there's also less high-end competition. So let's get into the results from this fest. I entered with a retro-style grid-based dungeon crawler called Navigating the Labyrinth. I started the fest with 801 wish lists and ended it with 1,245. That's an increase of 444, which works out to 55%. Game followers went from 99 to 131 for an increase of 32%. The soundtrack went from 4 wish lists to 5, so clearly that did not get any traffic. The Drag and Dropper Game Studio followers only increased by 1, and my other games didn't really increase wish lists above the baseline rate, so clearly traffic wasn't being directed to the company page. My best guess going in was that wish lists would increase by 462, which is the logarithmic mean between 40% and 80% increase, so 444 wasn't too far off. Quantity-wise, this was my biggest increase yet, and I'm pretty happy with the results. And this game already has more than 500 wish lists, more than my best launch so far, and will be the first 4-digit launch for me. I experienced a wish lists to demo plays ratio of about 2.2 to 1. Someone posted a Reddit thread asking if it was normal to have more wish lists than demo plays, and they had about the same ratio, so that seems pretty typical. Now let's compare with the previous 2 fests in fall of 2023 and spring of 2024. In the fall of 2023, in my first Next Fest, the Into the Inferno Dungeon Crawler entered with 159 wish lists and exited with 286, for an increase of 80%, which was also a net gain of 127. This hasn't been my largest increase quantity-wise, but it has been my largest increase percentage-wise. It also went from 25 followers to 37, or an increase of about 50%. In the spring of 2024, my second Next Fest, I entered 2 games. The first was a visual novel that I had been planning to release a month earlier, but postponed so I could enter it in the fest. That one went from 116 wish lists to 194, or an increase of 67%. Followers increased from 13 to 18. It ended up being my second smallest launch, which makes sense because it was also my second smallest game with the second shortest dev time. The other game I showed in the spring of 2024, the Crossing the Sands Dungeon Crawler, had a result that is a whole lot closer, percentage-wise, to my results from Navigating the Labyrinth. It went from 280 to 432, which is a 54% increase and a net of 152 wish lists gained. That's 15 more than Into the Inferno gained. Followers went from 30 to 42, which is an increase of 40%. It's worth noting that Navigating the Labyrinth gained the same number of wish lists during the fest that Crossing the Sands had when it finished the next fest. That's 6 months of growth for one game versus the same in 1 week for another. After participating in 3 Next Fests with 4 games total, I can confidently say 2 things. The Steam team has done a great job and they should be proud of their work. As a game shopper, this format is way better. If you want to see everything and be exposed to a wide variety, tune in on day 1. If you don't want to see all the raw and filtered stuff, tune in the second half of the fest to see more of what the Steam audience thinks is good. Since it's a different experience, it's worth checking out both ends of the fest if you're the curious type. As a game developer, I'm confident that my game has sufficient opportunity to be discovered. The second observation is that the single most important thing you can do to succeed in Next Fest is to level up your skills. The numbers I'm seeing can't just be from the fest itself. If I had to estimate the number of wish lists I would have gotten with the old Next Fest format, I think it would have been about 10% less, or 400 even. That's still a nice result, and I wouldn't complain, but this newer format is just more enjoyable for me. It's also pretty great being able to compare 3 games in the same series, in the same genre, across 3 fests. I'm planning to enter my Survivors Like Eridani Survivors in the following Next Fest in June, and I'll probably do a report on that too, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Of course, it'll be quite a bit of work to get it ready in time, but I enjoy the process. That one is a smaller game in a saturated genre, so I'm sure the results will be a lot less and probably a lot closer to what I had with Across Kiloparsecs. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.